Isn't it interesting, though, that the one funeral that Albanese could bring himself to attend was not for one of the Jewish victims. And I think, the fears of rising anti-Semitism and the angst that is felt within the Jewish community and their concerns that the Prime Minister isn't responsive to those concerns, to those fears, not only being reinforced by hopefully what we're now going to see as a delay to calling the Royal Commission, but the fact that he didn't even bother to turn up to any of the Jewish victims' funerals when they were occurring, nor go and see, those in hospital at the time. And I just think it's indicative of this Prime Minister and his inability to read the room, or whether there is just such a latent underlying anti-Semitism through the Labor Party that they can't help themselves.
Well, it definitely could be that, and I think he's finally starting to realise how much pressure he is under to call a Royal Commission. Today we had Bob Brown, one of the co-founders of the Greens, come out and definitely was open to a Royal Commission and said he thinks Albo will cave, Claire. But I honestly think at this point, even if he does cave, the damage is already done. He doesn't want this. He'll only call it because he feels he has to.
Well, that's the problem. And so I don't think, even when we're looking at the funeral issue, whether he went today, he was criticised. If he didn't have gone today, he would have been criticised. So it's very hard. How is he going to somersault, triple backflip out of this politically? I don't see how he can, because, of course, the criticism will be that you're only doing this under pressure now, that you don't really understand the root causes and the need to do this Royal Commission. And it's interesting, you mentioned Bob Brown there. Yes, co-founder of the Greens, of course, but I think the Greens party is not the party that Bob Brown founded, and, of course, has drifted so far away from that. So what Bob Brown thinks is going to happen, I think I'm not going to take as any indication of how the Greens party votes. I mean, this is the party that kicked out, if you remember, their other co-founder, Drew Hutton, last year on his stance on the transgender issue with kids. This is the Greens party that this week has come out and called for cutting our ties with AUKUS and America in response to Venezuela. This is the very radical, dangerous Greens party, and I think Bob Brown is far from that.
Yeah, and there's also another debate that's come up today and in the last couple of days around how we best memorialise the Bondi site. Of course, the footbridge overlooking the park where the two alleged shooters shot from is still there, and there is a debate. What should we do with it? I personally think to demolish it would be a disservice to the victims. It should be turned into some sort of memorial. But on the other hand, do you then risk this kind of morbid tourism where people go to take photos at tragic places? What do you think, Hollie?
Look, I think it should be memorialised. I think, the park, there's some talk about rebranding it Matilda B.
I think that's beautiful.
And something to memorialise the victims. And I think that's important. Even if you go over to where the World Trade Centres were, there's a memorial. It's very much memorialising what happened.
Beautiful at the Lim Cafe site with the flowers in the ground, so we can do something really respectful like that.
Absolutely, that's what should be done, and it should be there in perpetuity as a reminder of how this anti-Semitism was allowed to flourish and how we must never, once we hopefully get on top of it, allow it to rear its head again.